Good day, everyone. We're here with Paul Orazietti, head coach of the Superior Heights senior football team. How are you today, Paul?
Good. How are you?
Good. I know summer's busy for you, not just Superior Heights football, but also Sioux College, being the athletic director. How was your summer?
Yeah, exactly like you described it. Busy. It's been. It doesn't really feel like summer, and then this year was it just felt short. But we are ramping up for the best time of the year, which is the return to sports. So,
And like I say, football is your big passion, right?
you got it.
So it's first things first. I was just talking to Jim Monaco a little while ago. With a 3-team league here in Sault Ste. Marie because of White Pines not fielding a team this year, is it hard with just this 3-team league?
Great question. I mean, I think we can overcome the lack of different, sort of competitive looks from different teams by playing some exhibitions. And I know this year every team in the city is playing exhibition. So that actually gives you a little bit of freedom to get outside of the city and play some games. We're heading down to Niagara Falls to play Ann Meyer, and we'll be hopefully getting across the border to play Sioux High. So those are great experiences for the student athletes, and that helps us sort of fill those holes of not having a real robust league.
So what is, as a coach, staff, and players, what do you get out of those exhibition games?
Well, I think there's some basic fundamentals that we want to try and develop. Doesn't matter who you're playing. You want to be able to tackle, block, catch the football, run with the football. Those are the type of things that we care more about. I mean, the system and the scheme will cater more to the teams that we play locally. We'll see some different styles of play as we get outside the Sioux. And of course, when we go to the U.S., we'll see 11-man football, which is a whole different animal, and it requires us to remove the motion from our game and eliminate a player. So there's some challenges there for sure. But again, these are all, at the end of the day, these are all great experiences for the student athletes and ones they remember. I can recall being at Sir James Dunn, going to play Sioux High when I was a student, and still vividly remember how physical that game was and how much of a challenge it was. So I think they're just great experiences.
And going over and playing Sioux High if it's possible, and you only have 4 or 5 days to adapt to that play. Is it hard for the kids because they're used to a different system?
Well, they're hard. I mean, it's probably harder for the coaches because they have to try and prepare these guys to play without a player. As I always like to joke, we just take the worst player off the field. But no, what we'll end up doing is, there's a few positions that not seamlessly, but without a ton of effort, we can eliminate. And then we just have to coach them up on the rules as far as motions and what they can and can't do. We will, of course, be victimized by some procedure calls and things like, not having the no yards and the punt. Those are going to be real challenges. But, it's a 1-game exhibition. And again, I'm looking at it more from the experience of the hitting and the physicality piece more than anything.
And going into training camp, what's your QB situation looking like for 2022?
We're fortunate in that we have a veteran guy in Gabe Barkley. He's played Sabercats, as quarterback this year. I think he's done a great job. He's an athlete, and he's done he's a great team leader. And so it's always nice to have a little bit of a veteran guy who can extend plays with his legs. The biggest thing with Gabe is, like most guys who are great athletes, you don't want them to take over too much of the game or put too much of the game on their shoulders and try and win on every play. And Gabe, that's the type of guy he is, and you love him for it. But we want to be able to support him with some other offensive pieces. And then behind him, we have a young guy this year who's just learning this spot, Kaden Macleod. Comes from a great long line of football players. His dad actually played for me in Victoria. So it's kind of neat. I must be getting old because I'm seeing the kids now. Dake is another just a good athlete and learning and developing as a quarterback, but definitely somebody that we'll keep our eye on in the future for that role.
Now, you're saying his dad was played for you. Is he going to be on the coaching staff this year?
His dad, I believe, is on the junior coaching staff, and I think he's been a real asset to them. So at this point, I think that's where he's planning on staying.
So let's talk a little bit about your O-line other than Gabe. Let's talk a little bit about what your O-line is going to look like.
Well, we have some new guys. We have 2 new guys on the O-line this year, and we have decent size. We're good size for high school. Not a lot of depth, but I think that's probably a complaint that every high school team has, is that they don't have a lot of depth. But Shane Hedrick's our big man, and we're looking for great things out of him. He's definitely a college prospect. He'll be playing right guard this year. Theory Dunster, just super committed, a great guy to have on there. Noah Irwin is our center. He's very intelligent. He kind of makes that whole group run. We'll have Cole Hayden, who's new this year but played in junior. Big body guy, pretty athletic. We're looking forward to see what he can do. And then Tyler Barrow, who's our right tackle, he's probably the smallest of the group, but maybe the most athletic. And again, has been working really hard in the gym. So it's a decent group of 5. I think I wouldn't say we're world beaters, but we've got a way to go in terms of getting off the ball and being physical, but it's a decent group.
And like you say coaching for a while. How do you bring these grade 10s up into grade 11 and get them adapted to senior football?
Well, I think, as I'm starting to see it, from in my background coming from college football, commitment in terms of being at practice and off-season work was never really an issue, right? Because you have a lot of guys who are scholarship guys and you have 3 deep at every position. So, if a guy doesn't want to be there, it's pretty easy to move him along. And so one of the things that's been a real eye-opener for me since I've been back in the Sioux is seeing how the realities of today's world, which is a lot of the high school students work and they have busy lives and they've got a lot of things going on. It seems like more so than maybe we did when we were kids. But so the biggest thing right now is trying to get them into our culture of commitment and trying to get them in the culture of understanding that football is not a drop-in sport. It's not an intramural sport. And you need to have that high level of commitment for the 9 weeks that you're really required to be there. So that's the first and foremost what I try and instill in the young guys coming up, is that we're not we don't just show up in September and put on our helmets and say we're a football team. So I think that's the biggest thing where there's a bit of an adjustment, and hopefully as time goes on, that'll become just they take for granted that there's spring football, they take for granted that there's off-season training, etc. And so we're making some strides in that respect, and I think that's how we best assimilate our young guys.
And like I said, just an interview with Jim Monaco from St. Mary's, and I know the schedule's not out, but he said he's got a first week bye, and with 3 teams, you process elimination, you guys are meeting Cora in the first week, and regular season champions, playoff champions, NASA and OFSA champions, opening the first week against a team like that. How are you guys going to be prepared for that?
Well, Cora's got a great program, and I certainly wouldn't sell St. Mary's short. They've got some scary athletes and some real weapons at receiver this year, and a very good quarterback. So even though it's a small 3-team sort of loop this year, I think it's going to be very competitive. I guess it's one of those things. We're going to play every game to be as competitive as we can be. We're going to try and measure ourselves by the progress that we make. I look at the season that we had last year, for example, and we played Cora in the first game, and I think we lost by 36 points, and then we saw them in the city finals and lost by 11. So that's whether we're on the good side of the ledger as far as the wins and losses. I think we want to just, measure ourselves by the improvement that we see week in and week out. No, there's no question that Cora is going to be a really tough opponent, but so is St. Mary's. And I guess the good news in Sault Ste. Marie is that everybody's making the playoffs. So we have some opportunities to find out who we are and get better as the season goes on. And quite honestly, whether we end up with a bye going into the playoffs or whether we have to play in a semifinal game, I don't really have a preference. I think both have their advantages and disadvantages. And so we're just looking to measure ourselves against ourselves. And we have a healthy respect for the 2 other programs in the city. And I think the St. Mary's is definitely a program that's on the upswing this year, and core is always strong. And I'd like to think that we've been doing some good things in the off season as well. So I expect probably one of the more competitive years this year in the city.
And going into training camp, can you talk a little bit about leadership, where you're looking at to rely on this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could maybe start with on our defensive side. One guy who's an extremely good captain, leader, Kaden Macleod. He's our middle linebacker, talented athlete, has a love of the game, which is hugely important. Would like to play post-secondary, and I think he keeps working. He's on that path. So he's a real leader for us on the defensive side. Quite honestly, we have the defensive side there's a lot of new faces. We've been fortunate in that we've had a bunch of hockey players sort of join the ranks this year, but we have a lot of teaching to do on the defensive side, and not a ton of guys that are real veteran guys in any area. I think where our veteran guys sort of sit is more on the offensive side of the ball. So again, we talked a little bit about Gabe as a real leader for our program. I think Shane Hedrick, our O lineman, is going to be a real leader for our program. We've got a receiver I'm really excited about, Owen Case, who is new. He's a hockey guy, but catches the ball real well. I think he has the ability to do some things. Grant Rains, who's a track guy. I have really high hopes for Grant. He's probably one of the fastest kids in the city as far as just sprinting. So some good kids there. We lost a great team leader, unfortunately, this summer to an injury, Kaden Fisher. And I think that hurts because he's a utility knife for us. We played him at tailback, fullback, middle linebacker, outside linebacker, special teams. Really a good guy. I think he'll be around, but unfortunately he has to get knee surgery, I believe. So we won't be able to use him at all. And another young man who two young guys that I have high hopes for is grade 10s coming into grade 11. Ty Russian, who I think has good vision and good feet. We got to get him faster. He's not quite at the speed we'd like to have him. And Javen Battle. Javen's just a really raw athlete right now. And again, another guy that once we teach him some football skills, I think will be a really key piece to our team in 2023 going forward. So there's we're pretty young. There's no question about it. We have I would say our veterans sort of sit on our O-line and that quarterback, but beyond that, we're starting probably with less veterans than we had last year.
And what was the decision? Like, again, a lot of times Huron Heights is coming up for 2 weeks to play the Colts and the Knights. What was your decision to go to Niagara Falls compared to going, like, say, trying to go somewhere in the States?
So we were just looking for a game in Southern Ontario, and I happen to have some contacts from my days of coaching college football with the head coach at McMaster, and he offered us some free tickets to watch McMaster and York play. So my idea was to get the guys down to watch a college football game, Canadian college football game, which a lot of them I'm sure haven't been to, and tie that into a little bit of an exhibition game. So going to McMaster meant that we were playing a team in Hamilton or Niagara Falls, and that's how we ended up playing Ann Meyer. And then we filled our other open date. We filled one of our open dates with this Sioux High game. So that's 2 exhibition games for us. I know Huron Heights called us to play an exhibition game, but unfortunately the dates that they gave us didn't mesh with what our free dates were. And we talked about playing 2 exhibition games. We just thought the last bye week we had wouldn't be a great strategic game for us to play because you always have some injuries late in the season. And we thought that'd be a good week to give the guys off. So we have a pretty full schedule. We're happy with the schedule we have, and would have loved to play Huron Heights. We did have a weekend open that we could have, but we had already filled it by the time they reached out to us. So it'll be interesting to watch those games. I mean, they're obviously a great team, but Ann Meyer for us is going to be a fun exhibition. It's going to be actually more of a controlled scrimmage because they're always a top 10 team in Ontario as well. So we're looking forward to that.
And just touch base, I know you're heading into training camp, but what are your overall thoughts heading into week 1?
Well, I mean, again, we know it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I think for us, just, developing some general understanding and really focusing on the fundamentals of tackling, of blocking and just executing at a high level, being able to play fast. I'm not too worried about the scoreboard. We worry about the sort of the smaller pieces that pull it all together at the end for the win. So, we're just looking to see how we improve, trying to get our guys in the right places, and just see what kind of team we have, right? Because playing a team like Cora or even St. Mary's is going to give us an indication of who likes to hit, who we can count on when the chips are down, kind of thing, and that's all that evolution process. So by the end of the season, we're ready to go.
And the last thing is, I always say talent means a lot, but talent isn't everything, is it?
Well, don't get me wrong. Everybody loves to have talent, and I've been fortunate to be on some teams that won national championships because of talent. But talent alone, I think you're correct in saying talent alone doesn't get you across the finish line. So I think what we preach to our guys is don't be that weak link. Everybody, regardless of their talent level, has to know and has to be able to execute at a certain level. And as coaches, we have to be intelligent in the things that we're doing so that we can put our guys in the best position. I think we've done a pretty good job the last couple of years of trying to line our guys up in positions to be successful regardless of the opponent. And I think we've game planned well for other teams here. And, I think this year we have a decent amount of talent. We're not loaded by any stretch, but we do have a decent amount of talent. You always want more, but I think some of your grade 10s that start off as rookies that you think maybe won't be, too big of a piece by the time they're, 5 games into a season, they're no longer rookies anymore. And they're contributing, and they surprise you in terms of who's really come to the forefront. So it's going to be an exciting season, and we're looking forward to it.
And that's the last thing I was going to ask is, how excited are you that football season's opening up in 2 weeks?
Well, if you're talking, just strictly from the coaching standpoint, I think like most coaches, that's where you sort of get your fix, and it's exciting. It's your passion. If it is your passion, you can't wait for it. The off season in football is so long. Really, especially at high school, where it seems like it's 9.5 months of off season and 2.5 months of football. So it's kind of the payoff, and I think everybody, I'm super excited about it. And then from the bigger picture, just being a football fan in general, whether it's University of Michigan or or following the U Sport programs or whatever, the NFL, I think always love the football season. So yeah, excited. Best time of the year.
Well, Paul, thank you, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.